It is right. Just finished class. Introduction to computers. We talked about, not in this order, we talked about grit, productivity software. Actually, we went through the entire outline, kind of a little review, touched upon the most important part. Did very little with technology impacts. That'll be for Monday. And I covered some things on word processing. We talked about the assignment and so forth. So here we are, hard to believe. We just finished week 4. This is day 11 of Introduction to Computers. Would be 12 days, but, right? 12 days of Christmas? Nah, that first Monday was Martin Luther King Day, so 11 days. Long today. This won't take long today. Shouldn't talk while the screen is transitioning. Again, I think the students just grimace when I write the word internet on the board and paint my cloud. Okay, let's see if I can duplicate this. So here is the devious internet. Whoa. Okay. We'll make Facebook devious too. The dark cloud around Facebook. Doesn't really mean anything. So we talked some more about the internet, and we talked about internet service providers. Not a lot, but I want to make sure students are aware that, everything goes through an internet service provider. So Cabin Coffee was a good example today. We used that as an example. And we talked about, you log into a Wi-Fi at Cabin Coffee. And we talked about these, let's see if I can draw one, these pineapple devices. They're a little device that people will illegally bring into a coffee shop, set it up, and people unwillingly, they don't know, but their phone connects to the pineapple, and then the pineapple connects. They call it pineapple, but it's really just a device, a wireless device that collects signals. Well, then this device sends everybody's traffic to a person's laptop sitting there in the coffee shop, or gathers it up. We talked a little bit about that, so you had to be careful for Wi-Fi in public places. But Cabin Coffee, we use that as an example, they have a connection to the internet through an ISP. You do at home. We talked about U.S. Bank. Let's talk about that example. What we did was, I talked about HTML. Most of the students are getting a pretty good idea. So the HTML sits on the web server. Okay, so here at Facebook, and then I access Facebook from home. Let's just use, let's use this here. So go through the internet, see the packets going in there, and then it sends me HTML back to my house, to my computer, or my home, wherever I am connected to the internet. So the HTML moves from the, I'll give you a word here, moves from the client to the server, and then from the server back to the client. They got a client-server network. Okay, so now we understand basically what HTML is. So then I tell the students, or ask students, can you duplicate it? And they go, sure. And you just copy it. Okay, can you put it in your own web server? Sure. So you put it in your own web server, and you go out to the real U.S. Bank, take a copy of their information, put it in your web server, and it looks just like U.S. Bank. And then you trick somebody to go to yours instead of the real one, either through an email or some way, and then you can gather information about that person who unwittingly signs in to U.S. Bank here, and their sign-in doesn't work. You gathered their login information, then you send them to the real bank, and they sign in the second time, and it worked. And they thought, oh, I must have just mistyped it. No, you got spammed, or phished is the right word. Alright, so we talked about that. Also here, I think it's really important, we talked about how we pay or how things are measured in connecting to the internet. We can pay by a data plan, so many gigabytes, okay, like at our house, or excuse me, on our phones. My wife and I share 1 gig, so you pay by quantity. Connections to and from the internet, like here from our house to and from the internet, we pay by bandwidth. They guarantee a certain amount, but we have like 60 meg down, bits per second, and like 20 up, bits per second, and we pay for that. And we also have, it's metered, so they also measure how much data we're sending back and forth to the internet, and we can't go over a certain amount. That's with Mediacom. A couple terms students should know: bytes and bits per second, measuring speed. Here we're measuring quantity. All right. So one other thing we did, we went through the outline. We looked at, for Unit 2, we went through the objectives. That's an E. We went through the objectives. We talked about what we should know after this unit is completed. Okay, and then we went down through the outline and talked about some specifics. I'm not going to do that right now. You have an outline, you have my videos, you can do that. But I did want to mention this public shaming. It's at the end of Unit 2, and there's an assignment that goes with that. We talked briefly about a trigger. I warn you that there is some graphic and possible offensive language. Right here, some graphic. So that's a trigger. And we talked briefly about, should you trigger, should you not trigger? Is this an infraction upon your Second Amendment rights, free speech? I'm not sure. Anyway, it is a topic in terms of what we warn people about or not. Anyway, if you don't want to listen to some of the offensive language, then you need to talk to me about a separate assignment. Otherwise, we'll talk about this a little bit more on Monday. Monday, we're going to wrap up the unit. Today, I talked about some key things in terms of the assignment. Let's do that first. I'm going to put that right up here. The word processing assignment, assignment 2. Make sure the title, they could have put a title in, they actually had the word title. They split a chart, they have to should be able to get your footer, your text and page on the same number. Should be comfortable putting in text box, images. Don't split a chart. You have a chart, you should be able to put in a page break, and make sure the document is readable and goes through. And then I said the blue items. Okay, you should correct the blue items. That's where the document might have 2 spaces or whatever. The blue items, you got to look in the actual document. People should correct those blue items as best they can. All right. Project 2 due, I believe, tonight. And I said if you can't get it done, make sure you either text me or email me. And then we're going to wrap up word processing next week. Next thing, I went through all the grit material. That's due tonight, so if you still want to submit that. And make sure you go in and look at my comments. If you do, there's 2 of them. There's one where it's a discussion, and another one where you submit a document. Okay? And you can do both. You can get the points for both. If you don't do them, it's like an assignment, I told the students. So it was really good. I asked students if there any questions. Nobody had any questions. Sometimes I think it's because they're fearful to ask a question and what other people would think. That's one of the things we talked about in grit. Not having that fear. Okay. On the document side, some people forgot their name, date, and forgot to put in answering questions, but otherwise they were really good. So we talked a little bit about grit, talked a little bit about IQ, how smart you are, and what does it take to be successful. We didn't spend a lot of time on it, and we'll talk a little bit more about that Monday, and then we have another one coming up called Drive, and that will allow us to talk even more about change, grit, and then drive. Well, that's it. Can you believe it? 4 weeks under our belts. If you have any issues, questions, let me know. Oh, one last thing. We had the ethics article from the assignment. We talked a little bit about ethics, not a lot. Then I mentioned the word post-truth. We looked it up. If you don't know what it is, look it up. All right, that's it.